Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, checking if you like PlayStation 4 emulation and Chad PS4, then I have a special treat for you today. And honestly, of all the emulation videos I've made in the month of June, even though we have PCSX 2X6 out right now, the Chad PS4 forks and improvements in PlayStation 4 emulation absolutely have been my favorite thing to see and interact with. That is because I've loved the PlayStation 4, and even though the hardware isn't that expensive and you can go out and buy it, one day it is going to become obsoleted in 15-20 years, and having perfect PlayStation 4 emulation is going to be a big deal. And Junmin Lee, the developer of the Gravity Rush and Gravity Rush 2 fork of Chad PS4, just updated as well, basically making this almost near perfect to real PlayStation 4 hardware. Getting so far as to get 15 to 20% performance improvements off the same hardware that you would last test this on. And honestly, we're getting to the point now, at least with Gravity Rush 2, if I didn't tell you that this was actually emulation, just said I had captured PlayStation 4 hardware, I don't think anyone would be the wiser. Now, of course, I would never do that on the channel. I always tell you exactly the source of the footage, but Shed PS4 has improved so much in 2026 that we're getting to a point now where you could be fooled into thinking that you're watching a real hardware capture and not software emulation of the PlayStation 4. And even though it has been some years, time seems to fly, it doesn't really feel like the PlayStation 4 is all that old at this point in time. Sure, we've had PlayStation 5 for some years now, but honestly, I feel like PlayStation 4 just kind of left the market as the most recent PlayStation console. And honestly, at this point in time, I'm not even really excited for the idea of a PlayStation 6, because I really feel like Sony hasn't done all that much in the PlayStation 5 generation. I don't really feel like giving them another $800 to $1,000 for another piece of hardware that just doesn't really entertain me. Or something like Junmin Lee's fork of Chad PS4 for Gravity Rush, it entertains the ever-loving hell out of me and excites me way more than any modern gaming does. And if we take a look here again, everything basically looks almost perfect, at least to my eye, but I'm sure there is a stray pixel here or there that might be out of alignment. So if you take a look at the GitHub, and again, link down below, you're going to see version 5.0 is out. It's called Perfection. Now, I'm sure there is something that isn't perfect about it, but I haven't found it yet. The biggest thing is, again, you're getting up to 20% increased performance on the same hardware compared to the previous Chad PS4 instance, and you're getting a ton of crash fixing. And even though I've been playing around with Gravity Rush 2 and haven't gotten it to crash yet, apparently there were different ways for the game to basically crash if there was race conditions or anything else like that. I'm not going to get into what a race condition is, just trust me, it gets very complicated making sure everything works exactly how you need it to. And there's also resolution patch support for Gravity Rush Remastered. But I do want you to note, because people do comment on the videos and saying there's a 60 frame per second patch, there's stuff like texture packs. I totally understand and get that, but when I test emulation, I test the stock game, because if something does go wrong, how would I know if it's the patch causing the issue, if it's the texture pack causing the issue, or if it's the emulation causing the issue? Now don't get me wrong, always comment and tell me cool new features in these games, because sometimes I don't know about them, but my baseline for testing emulation is I give it the retail files for the game and I see what comes out the other end. Playing around too much, again, if there's an issue, I can't say if the patch caused it or if the actual emulation was quote-unquote at fault. But as far as Gravity Rush 2 is concerned, I've gotten maybe 3 to 4 hours into the game, showing you something from earlier stages, just in case you haven't played. I don't want to spoil any story beats, and I've had no issues whatsoever. And I love Gravity Rush. I started out on the PlayStation Vita, then I have both Remastered and 2 on PlayStation 4, and it really makes me sad to think that Japan Studio is no longer around, and we're probably never going to see a Gravity Rush 3 from PlayStation. Now don't get me wrong, I own every single PlayStation console out there, and I do love Sony as a developer, but honestly, this is the type of stuff I want to see more of as far as first-party exclusives are concerned, and less about what Sony's been doing in the PlayStation 5 era. Maybe I'm wrong, but you tell me down below. Would you rather have another God of War game, or would you rather have another Gravity Rush game? For me personally, Gravity Rush 3 any day of the week and twice on Sunday. But just playing around in Chad PS4 with this game, it is absolutely flawless, and I really haven't been able to find a single thing about this build to say is not working correctly. And considering you're emulating PlayStation 4, a recent console, that is just straight up impressive as hell. Let's go into the first of 2 soundtrack samples so you can hear the audio quality, keep your ears open and see if anything is wrong with it, and I'll be right back with a lot more fun.
क्या?
Sí. Las. Giuseppe. Giuseppe!
I mean, that sounds exactly like Gravity Rush 2 to me, but if there's one issue I'm going to miss, whether it's emulation or a source port or even a static recomp, it's going to be audio issue, just because my ears do not pick up on them all that well. And you'll see here you do get a button prompt to use the actual touchpad here on a PlayStation 4 controller. If you have one hooked up to your PC, you can definitely set that up in the Shad PS4 emulation options and this fork, but I was just using an Xbox Series X pad, and the button to the left of start, I think it's called options, I always forget that one, basically activated as a touch button, so that was perfectly fine. But again, just take a look at the fluidity in this actual footage. There really isn't any staggering, there's no staccato motion whatsoever, everything just works. Now, as a baseline, I will tell you I have an i9-12900K overclocked to 5.4 GHz on a water cooler. I have an NVIDIA 3080 Ti and 64 GB of RAM, and that's probably way overkill for what you need to even do something like emulate Gravity Rush 2. But if you bring a potato to the party, you're going to get potato results, which are going to be a little bit mushy, but might still be an enjoyable time. And the only point I'm trying to make here is what you're seeing on screen is not a guarantee to the performance you're going to get. It just depends on your system specs. And stuff like the gravity feature here, last time I played around with the previous build, there would be a little bit of hitching when you actually transition states, and there'd be an issue where some of the actual glowing art on Cat did not appear correctly. That's all been fixed in this most recent version of the game, and everything is fast and fluid. And that really is something that 100% fundamentally matters in emulation. You want to be able to play the game, and you don't want to have any hitching whatsoever. The best emulation basically makes you forget you're using an emulator in the first place. You just have a controller in your hand, you think to yourself, that feels exactly like it should, and you stop thinking about how you're playing a game, and then you just start thinking about actually playing the game. And that is what I'm getting out of Gravity Rush 2 here. And trust me, Shad PS4 is definitely going to improve a lot more in 2026. This is an emulator that's been around for some years, but I feel like in 2026 alone, it's gone from a very fun thing to kind of play around with, but not to expect to play a lot of games on, to something where you can sit down and start to finish beat some of the best games on PlayStation 4. Now, it's not going to be every single game. Definitely check out compatibility lists before you spend time trying to play something that won't work whatsoever. And don't forget, this is a fork of Shad PS4 specifically for the Gravity Rush games, but a lot of the improvements here will definitely end up being merged back into the main line, because these performance gains will be useful not just on one title, but on a ton of titles. And don't forget, if you don't have a PC that's able to run something like Shad PS4 right now, maybe in 6 months to a year as they find more efficiencies in the code, your PC will actually start running it decently. Or within 2 years, when you actually upgrade, you'll have a PC that'll be well beyond the spec of what you need to emulate PlayStation 4 games. And we're talking improvements, we're talking about resolution patches, frame rate patches, and the like. And this intro sequence, which I showed the previous video, it is so much smoother now. There was a tiny little hitch there where that rock came down, but I took a look at an original hardware capture, and I saw that it happened there too. But one more soundtrack sample just so you can hear the audio quality one more time, and I'll be right back with just a little bit more. Again, with that audio there's nothing to my ear that makes me think it's anything other than Gravity Rush 2. Now, I know the release version of this version 5.0, Junman Lee called it perfection, but honestly, and I'm not saying that they're making it up, it is extremely good, but I think it's just a little tongue-in-cheek fun, because I don't think the developer's saying it's perfect, and I don't want you to think I'm saying it's perfect. You can play this game. I did talk to one person who's played it from start to finish, just as kind of a speed run to see if they could get the credits to scroll, and you 100% can do it, but I'm sure somewhere in here there's going to be a little bit of a blip, so don't think that this is 100% perfect real PlayStation 4 hardware. Just think to yourself, it's pretty damn impressive. You can play Gravity Rush 2 from start to finish. You can improve upon it if you so want to, and that's just straight up amazing, and I can't wait to see what Shad PS4 does next. Sure to that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.